Hi everyone, just wanted to do a build update for day 4. So I had my previous video at day 1, day 2. In day 3, we spent farming a mageblood, our second mageblood as a team of 2. And we got it at the end of day 2, and then I transitioned using the mageblood at the start of day 4, geared for it, and then blasted today T17 farming with a mageblood. So the main topic of today is going to be sharing about my POE, how I approached building my character. So you can see that I'm using a lightning coil with mageblood and how I came to that decision. So yeah, so today, as a recap, I was farming pretty much T17s to farm uber fragment drops, selling those fragments, and also dropping silo maps and selling those for about 8-0 pop in bulk to people who want to do the fuck gun strat. So yeah, the first one is how to approach gearing. So that comes in two forms, right? When it comes to building a character, you want to decide on how you deal with phys mitigation, and secondly, how you deal with spell mitigation. So firstly, on phys mitigation, you have a few choices, right? You're scaling armor, getting high armor rolls, 20,000 plus minimum is to be okay. Phys conversion, phys that was heavily nerfed, the helm stuff got removed. Taste of Hate no longer gives phys, and yeah, a couple other sources are no longer available. So scaling that to a high amount is not as good. And third one is going to be evasion, just dodging attacks to take less attack damage. And fourthly is just generic less damage. I think the new Flesh and Stone, you have like nearby enemies deal like 19% less damage or something like that. So, and things like Enfeeble to do less damage, less accuracy, things like that. So this phys mitigation, you have 4 choices, and the approach that I went for was lightning coil, which was phys conversion, and I'll explain a little bit more later. So second thing that you need to take note of for gearing an endgame build, especially with a mageblood, is you want to solve these 2 things. Second one is spell mitigation, and there's a few methods like spell suppression. You'll be using spell block or using generic max res to be able to absorb elemental hits. If you really have a good physical mitigation, then you can mitigate the elemental aspect of it. So to round off the build, there were a few choices. It's either you go like Cloak of Defiance, then you just put more of your damage into your mana to absorb that. And other approaches is going to be like using Brass Dome, reduce crit with max res. There's going to be Fourth Vial, Zibaqua as an option. And yeah, I think there was one more that crossed my mind. And then finally, there's Low-Wave Eternal Damnation, which was nerfed because Eternal Damnation no longer gives power charges and your endurance charges, which comes with the Hierophant build, and you don't really have many options for another Ascendancy that is good. And given that they buffed endurance charges to do pretty much a subset of what Eternal Damnation currently does, which then removes that ability for gaining and not having any endurance charges, I felt like it was a trade-off that I was not willing to take. So what was previously good is no longer as good in my opinion. So what I did was to choose a lightning coil together with melding to deal with physical and spell mitigation respectively. So it rounds off the build very well, because the downside of lightning coil to give you 50% phys conversion to lightning is the -60 lightning resistance. So to solve this problem, especially in mageblood, it's very easy to use a Topaz Flask, which gives 2 main things. Firstly, lightning resist to be able to solve your downside to your lightning coil, and secondly, max lightning resist, which is the starting building block to kind of building a melding build, which is getting 90 max resistance, which will then apply to all your other resistance. So the max resistance of choice is going to be lightning, because you use the Topaz to solve the negative lightning res, and then you use the max resistance to solve to start building towards the melding. So yeah, that is the option that I took, a combination of melding to deal with spell mit and pretty much elemental damage in general, plus lightning coil to deal with phys. So how did I solve the 90 resistance for melding? So you can see right now that I'm actually 89%, I'm not 90%. So it is a few ways. I'm gonna jump into POB and show you how I built my character. So I'll be putting this into POB. And how I solve the 90 res is I'm going to start with the Topaz Flask. So this is going to be 5 maximum resist, and that is before the increased effects. So here you get 68 increase effect with 25 increase effect. So you pretty much get, I think, about 2 additional max lightning. So 5 plus 2, so you get 7% lightning. And they introduced this new league, which is max lightning resist on jewels, and this makes it super easy, super convenient to build your maximum lightning resist without having to go out of your way to get your final few max res. So plus 2 here, so that's 9%, and then of course your melding will minus 4% of your lightning res. And then I switch out determination because you're doing phys conversion. You don't really need that anymore. So what I went for was going to be Eternal Blessing with Purity of Lightning. So Purity of Lightning currently gives 4 max lightning resist. And then this is currently at level 21. So the last lightning resist will be coming from plus 2 aura gems. So if you go to the gloves, and if I add a modifier to be Sok the AoE gems to be plus 1, and if I edit that to be plus 2, over here you can see that it should give additional res if the Purity of Lightning is in the gloves. So you can see that it goes from 89 res to 90 res. So that's not done yet. I'm currently at a stage where I have not approached it with a Veil Chaos to solve it. I did it once, I didn't hit it, so I'll be waiting for that to go ahead. Yeah, apart from that, it's just the usual flask stuff to deal with the build. So I think I wanted the quality of life in softcore, so silver plus quicksilver, and then this move to be able to give the elemental resist for the build, because you actually need a lot more resist to cap. And overcap 10% is ideal because sometimes you get scorched and so on. So or what do you call that? Exposed. And then on top of that, immune to curses and reduce effect of shock to round off the build. Shock immunity. And then as for pantheons, I'm using Aberrath for reduce ignite and burning ground immunity. Brian King for freeze immunity and stun block recovery. The boots will give me for ailments immune to chill. So yeah, and then Chaos Rest Cap, of course, because Chaos damage is the worst for Mon builds because it bypasses the energy shield, although we have the mastery to reduce it by 30%. Finally, I want to round off today's discussion by talking about how I'm going to upgrade from this stage onwards. So this is kind of like the Mark 1 of the build, you know, just starting with mageblood, just rounding off the build, non-endgame wands, still not the best. But we did some upgrades today, some random recombinators to kind of get our wands going. So as you saw earlier, the glove is going to be the first upgrade to get to 90 melding res. I got the Bottle of Faith today that increased my damage by about 30% more when it's activated. So that's a huge damage buff to killing the T17 bosses or difficult rares in the map. Corrupted Lightning Call. When it comes to T17 maps, critical damage is a huge component of the rolls and the damage that monsters deal. So getting the 5 off color lightning call means I need to double corrupt my own chest to be able to get reduced lightning, so that's going to come on later. Of course, I'm only level 95, so getting levels will be huge. Just 2 levels will bring me probably near to 8,000 mana. Also keep in mind, I wanted to point out, is the mana cost in PoB is currently inaccurate. So you can see that if I don't have this reduced mana cost here to pad the PoB, it's 468 mana, which is totally incorrect. My mana cost here is 164, so yeah, it's completely wrong. So just add in something like somewhere between 35 to 40% reduced mana to roughly get to what your mana cost actually is. And next is of course Awakened Spell Echo. So there's currently 32 divines, not too important, something like 10% more I think damage. Wand Enchants. So that's Wand Enchants is quite interesting. I think people have been talking about the Tormented Spirit one that increases cast speed. So that is something that I'm going to be exploring. But they were saying that the Tormented Spirit cast speed enchant costs something like 30 divines and runes. So that is a bit of a chase in itself. Last but not least, interesting thing is the exposure we can get on our gem, which is Awakened Lightning Pen. So we got exposure on gems, which means we don't need exposure on gloves, which means we can get leech on gloves, and we can change our helmet from a leech helmet to a power charge helmet, and then get a source of power charge generation somewhere. If I change my timeless jewel, I will be able to spec the additional power charge, so that gives me 2 power charges additional. It gives me additional crit and more damage through inner conviction because I'm using the timeless jewel of militant faith. And a lot of people I think will have trouble dealing with mana cost and reducing that below 200, which is very consumes a lot of mana. Even with Dreamer, Righteous Decree, it is still very expensive, and of course the Mana Mastery. So I added in a Militant Faith with reduced mana cost to deal with that. Of course, we lose a bit of downside with the Glorious Vanity, which is a popular choice in hardcore. So that will give me 2 power charges with this one here after I change my Timeless Jewel, and +1 power charge helm. So that will give me a bump in the damage. So pretty cool. So those are my upgrades and where I'm kind of working towards. And I might be farming a mirror maybe just for fun first before it spikes up in price. It's really quite expensive. But essentially, yeah, that is my build. Wanted to share my interesting take. I don't think I've seen anyone build it with Lightning Coil with melding as this combination I've seen. Something to point out is one of my viewers actually brought up this POB by Visang, which is approaching it with like almost a 90% spell block approach with this new shield svalin. Essentially, it is 65% max block with lucky, so it calculates twice, so somewhere like 87% block chance, which is huge. But how he approached this build, it doesn't really have phys mitigation, so something to solve and not fully well-rounded. 12% chaos rest, 14k phys mid, so not the best well-rounded build, but in terms of spell mitigation, very, very good. Yeah, okay, he actually does have 65% attack block. So yeah, maybe it's okay, but maybe that's with roomies, so that's another thing. So that's another way you can build that. Personally, I did not like the way he built it. It is very, very interesting though with the new shield, and opens up a lot of possibilities. Maybe the chest can be different, but yeah, we'll see how it holds out. Essentially, what I'm playing now is something that is very tanky. 51 phys hit, 220 max hit. Definitely not the numbers that are most accurate, but it depends on the monsters that you're fighting, but this is what I have. T17s are very, very rippy, and building a tanky build allows me to run more dangerous mods, which means making more money, less chaos spams on the T17s to reroll them. So the next few days, that's what I'll be doing, pretty much running these T17 maps, selling the Uber fragments, and making some bank. So that's it from me. I'll probably be streaming the next few days, probably towards the PM of my time zone after work. So I'll probably catch you guys around. Any questions, feel free to leave in the comments or catch me on stream at twitch.tv/aeroplane. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Bye.